Have you ever finished grading a stack of assignments only to have students immediately ask why they received the score they did? Instead of moving forward with the lesson, you ended spending valuable class time explaining your reasoning over and over again to different students. That confusion usually happens for one specific reason. The performance expectations for the assignment weren't clear at the very beginning. This grid represents the solution. A rubric is a transparent guide that details how student work will be evaluated before the project even starts. It answers 3 specific questions. First, what exactly are the students expected to do? Second, what does a high-quality version of that work look like? And third, how exactly will that work be scored? When students have this map up front, they focus their energy on executing the task rather than guessing the teacher's preferences. Defining these expectations early gives students a functional guide to follow while they work. They can check their own progress against the requirements and Evans Sage. To build a rubric, you must first identify the core skill you are assessing among the many different types of student work. Are you measuring their ability to write a clear paragraph, solve a math equation, or build a physical model? The tool must match the target task. A rubric focused on a specific goal provides meaningful data about student performance, whereas a vague checklist only tracks if the work was completed. Next, use the left-hand column of the grid to divide the overarching assignment into measurable components. For a presentation assignment, you might set content clarity as the first required element. You might then add organization to evaluate how logically the ideas are sequenced. You can then complete the list by adding examples used and presentation style. Breaking the task into these discrete parts signals to the student which components of their work carry the most weight. The third step involves the top row of the grid. This section describes how student performance improves step by step. The furthest right column defines mastery of the criteria, often labeled as excellent. The middle columns represent intermediate levels of comprehension, such as good and developing. The leftmost column indicates work that falls below the acceptable baseline, labeled as needs improvement. Instead of just giving a numerical mark, use the boxes within the grid to describe what each level looks like in practice. These descriptions provide an actionable path for improvement. A student at the developing level can see exactly what specific changes they need to make to reach the good level. Once the grid is built, you must avoid the common mistake of waiting until the grading phase to show it to the class. To influence the quality of the final project, you must share the rubric with your students before the assignment begins. When students have these standards early, they can use the rubric to plan their research, draft their outlines, and self-assess their progress. Proactive rubrics serve as an active blueprint. Students use the documented standards to self-correct and refine their work while they are still in the development phase. Because every criterion and level is predefined, teachers spend less time writing repetitive feedback on every paper. This structured approach simplifies the actual grading process while making the feedback more precise. This efficiency starts by anchoring the rubric to a specific, identifiable learning goal. It continues by dividing the core task into explicit, measurable criteria. Success is then defined by writing descriptive, actionable performance levels rather than relying on point systems alone. When you distribute this fully populated grid to your students proactively, you remove the mystery from the assessment process. Defining success ahead of time allows students to work with confidence. They no longer have to guess what is required to excel. Clear expectations provide a direct path towards student improvement. When the parameters of success are visible, students can focus entirely on their learning.